Welcome to Centered Presents The Future of Health. Join me, Christina Walecka, along with Dr. Molly Brown, as we dive deep into the world of brain-based wellness.
In each episode, we will explore cutting-edge insights and practical techniques that empower you to achieve optimal health and super high-energy living.
Tune in and start your journey toward a healthier, more vibrant you. Well, on today's episode, we are so excited to welcome someone who has been with us since before day one. Podcast strategist, creative producer, and coach, Matt Callanan. Welcome, Matt. It's so good to see you.
Hooray! Yes, welcome. Good to see you too.
Matt's based in the UK, which always makes time change a little interesting, but we always somehow make it work. Talk to us a little bit about how you got started, what you do, and maybe how you and Molly formed your relationship.
Yeah, sure. So I came from an audio background anyway. DJ'd around the world, made tunes, got very lucky in our 20s, which was amazing. Then started working for the BBC in London, just doing like media production, video, and then kind of moved into full-time kind of video production myself. Always loved kind of creative stuff, and then moved into coaching just because lots of people were saying, can you help me do this? Can you help me do this? I had trained as a coach, and I just love helping people win. And that's kind of evolved into podcasting. I'm a part-time lecturer in kind of entrepreneurship and marketing. So I do lots of different things, but essentially I just want to help people win, find their purpose, because I think that's what really lights me up is when other people win or find their pathway and have success and loads of nice things in their life.
I can only imagine that you see when they find that purpose, their transition, and I'm assuming they become a healthier, happier version of themselves. I know with myself, like when you find that passion and purpose in life, you just are more inspired every day and excited to live.
Yeah, I feel like when you have that support or someone who can objectively, someone who might not even know you that well, but can objectively look at your strengths and talents with creativity. And I feel like, Matt, that's what you're really talented at. Like you can kind of consolidate a lot of information and set a clear path forward as a coach. And I have a lot of friends who have, advanced degrees from major institutions, and they're choosing to coach rather than go into a field of therapy. And so can you talk to us about the field of coaching and what you've seen and like what transitions you've seen and how you support people in that field?
Yeah, sure. So I think with my line of coaching, which is, I guess, mindset coaching and helping entrepreneurs and people who are elite in their field, lots of people, especially in the UK, I mean, I think America's ahead, as in they understand coaching. Okay, you've got sports coaching, but also you've got coaches that help entrepreneurs, people do their business, people like navigate life, because life is pretty tricky. And there's this saying, and I heard it from this great guru, Les Brown. It's like, when you're in the frame, you can't see the picture. So it's really hard for individuals to figure out sometimes which pathway to go because they're just in it, as in they need someone external to them to go, oh, I can see exactly where the issues are. But also, as a coach, just have the bravery to say to people, I think this is where you're going wrong. What's causing that? And kind of dig down. And sometimes there is crossover into therapy as well as a coach. I don't think there is any kind of like really defined lines between therapy and coaching sometimes. But I think it's that thing of going, okay, where are you right now? And where do you want to get to? And I think that's what coaching is bridging that gap and being that guide and support in that gap, essentially, from where they are to where they want to go. Because it's so much better in life to go through and have someone there that's not hand holding you, but just basically being that guide out in front or alongside you going, hey, it's okay. What about this pathway when it doesn't work out? Or I can see a more ambitious, more fulfilling pathway for you to take. Let's take that path together. That's the key thing as a kind of coach, is do stuff together so you don't feel lonely. Because I think as adults, we do so much stuff that where we just feel lonely. We just think we're trying to figure out stuff by ourselves. And that's what I love helping people do, is just go, yeah, let's do this together. Let's figure out together and let's help you win.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's like when you're trying to create a business or create something, if you're all on your own, it sometimes feels like it's you against the world, and it's so easy to get stuck in the daily, just what you have to get done each day. And I feel like what you're really talented at is seeing the bigger picture. We don't have to narrow our scope in any way. Like, it's actually unlimited what we can do with technology today and the global nature of things, global nature of business. We can interact all over the world instantly. And that's how we met. I was doing a group through Mind Valley, like a creative entrepreneur group, and you were one of their top coaches. And people, if they're not familiar with coaching, it's invaluable to your process of just sort of getting out of your own way and like thinking of new ideas you may never have, you might never have thought of.
We all have strengths, but being able to talk to somebody and hear what their strengths are and build and grow. And that's what's been so cool about, I think, like a podcast field or even like the medical field or whatever it is we're doing. There's so many different people who inspire us every day, who teach us new things every day. And that's so exciting. And I think where therapy and coaching play a valuable role is, I don't know if people are scared to overshare, or I know some people love to talk about themselves, which is not a bad thing at all. But having someone, again, who's an unbiased opinion, who can see both sides of the story, who can help you and direct you to make the best choices for yourself, I think is really, really important and something, again, super valuable for everybody to have.
Yeah. And I think there's so much shame still in people reaching out, whether it's for a coach or for a therapist or to go and check out their health. And I think that's a real shame. It is changing. I think there's a real stigma, especially around males in particular. They want to be the kind of big masculine man that solves everything, doesn't cry, doesn't show any emotions, has to solve everything, be the breadwinner, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of really outdated model. Again, we are just all humans. We're emotional kind of creatures, and actually we need to realize actually we're much better when we get help, and especially when we open up. And I think that's becoming more commonplace, which is great to see. But I think, yeah, there's still a really big stigma in going, oh, I need help, I need support, and it being okay to ask for help and ask for support.
One of my favorite marketing branding things was I'm a big Golden State Warriors fan, and during one of the finals, the slogan they used was "strength in numbers." Because even though we have like an all-star like Stephen Curry, it's no, like he was injured for some of it, and you had to bring out the bench. And I just love the strength in numbers.
Yeah. Matt, with your coaching, you're really talented and you have that creative spirit, right? Like your creativity comes in the coaching. Can you tell us some of the expansions you've seen, or I know you're like a big visual person too. Like we've had some amazing graphs that I reference frequently of like all the constellations of ideas, because we have a lot of different business ventures going on right now. But the visual representation and taking someone with that's really talented or really skilled, or pulling out their talents and having them think bigger, and some of the expansions you've seen and how you've helped people to get there.
Yeah, I think one of my clever skills was born from dyslexia. So I only found out that I've got dyslexia a couple of years ago. Always had a kind of intuition that the way I thought differently. But I think one of the key skills of being a dyslexic is that they're really good problem solvers, and also they're very good visual thinkers and can see things that other people can't. And when I've been coaching you, Molly, and you're ace to work with, because you've got all these amazing ideas inside your head, and I just essentially question you and can hear things and see things that you may not have seen, because again, you're just kind of caught up in the daily grind of family, running a business, doing an amazing podcast, all this stuff. And I can help you kind of open up all your potential and let you see the big possibilities. Because I think that's the big thing with coaching, is helping people see their true potential. Because I think we all just limit ourselves. I mean, that's why I have coaches as well, because we all hit a limit, or we've got limiting beliefs or stuff that happen to us and we just don't think it's possible. And I think what a good coach will do is remove that ceiling and show them that potential. And that's why I use, when I'm coaching, I've always got my iPad. I'm going, right, let me draw a little diagram and I'll draw these kind of visuals. And that's definitely one of my skills, because sometimes when people see the information, or say the sticking points or their limiting beliefs written down or put in a visual or diagram kind of form, they're like, oh, the amount of realizations that I've had with people that I'm coaching, because I've shown them something on an iPad where I'm like, oh, look, what if this equates to this, or this is what you're doing, or let's look at all the possibilities that you've got going on. Oh, that's why you're overwhelmed. Sometimes when people actually see the stuff all written down, it's like, oh, no wonder you're feeling overwhelmed, because you're dealing with all of this stuff. Okay, what can we reduce? How can we, get some clarity? How can we reduce that overwhelm? And sometimes just like the simple things, simple diagrams can be the most effective.
What's something that you would, when you start working with someone, or a piece of advice you would give to anyone right off the bat?
I would say it's be vulnerable and be open. And sometimes it takes a couple of sessions for people to open up.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to generalize here. It's usually the men. Females that I coach usually open up much, much quicker, because I think they're generally more emotionally intelligent. They're more used to potentially talking about their emotions with their friends. Blokes, though, really hard. You're like, and I can sense, sometimes they're just not opening up. They're being guarded.
Yeah.
And what you have to do again is peel back the layers and go, because sometimes I have that intuition where I'm like, I know what the issue is, but I want them to admit it rather than me pointing it out. Because I think that's where you get those big transformations where someone goes, oh, and when they actually kind of vocalize what their issue is, or what their sticking point is, or, the reason why they're not able to achieve the thing. So I think being vulnerable and opening up, because everything's confidential as well during coaching and therapy. And I think the people that hold back just hold up the whole process. And actually, when you're vulnerable and open up, you're going to get results much, much quicker.
I'm a big advocate, because I have a son. I'm a big advocate for boys, because I just don't think they get that level of support early on. So it's not necessarily like second nature to them. But I think that's where the field of coaching is so valuable to male and female, right? Because it's like having a best friend and like a champion with you every step of the way to have oversight and objectively reach your goals. What are the stats on coaching? I know it's a huge growing field, right?
I don't know the stats of coaching, but I would have to look that up. Or what I do these days is ask ChatGPT. It's like, what are the latest stats? But I think AI, speaking of AI, I think coaching for some people, even therapy for some people, is financially out of, reach, especially
Yeah.
for low income families. And you're kind of talking about supporting youngsters. And I think AI is really going to help in that field, as in everyone will have, or they can use it at the moment, but use AI or ChatGPT as a therapist, as a coach.
That's an
It's
interesting
not
idea.
quite as good as a a good human coach at the moment, but I think that's going to be a growing area where people can reach out and use their AI as a as a coach and a therapist. And that potentially removes the financial constraints. It might remove some of the stigma of kind of reaching out and actually speaking to another human. And potentially that might help with people's mental health and, their decisions, and feeling like they're supported where they may not have that kind of family support or a mentor or a coach available to them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't know the exact study, but there was a study done where it was like a doctor, a human doctor, and then a like AI.
Yeah.
They had someone go visit or type in all of their symptoms or whatever, and the AI gave more people what they like, a more sympathetic, vulnerable
Yeah.
response, and they felt more heard and connected than
That's
the
amazing.
human doctor.
Well, I know. And that's where I think, even whether it's the AI that people go to, because I don't know that eventually that will be the solution, or it pushes us to be more connected as a human being, right? Like the AI makes us act more human, maybe, because I think ultimately we're all going to go back to human connection and human intelligence and creativity. That's where I think we're going to overcome AI, is our creative spirit. But to have our creative spirit, we have to be our very best, I feel like.
Very best. Absolutely.
But I think the field of coaching is a very strongly growing field, because it's so helpful and it's widely accepted to have a coach, like a business coach, or even, I know, Matt, you kind of cross over into health and mindset coaching, but even as a business coach, it can get so overwhelming if we haven't done a new thing, right? And so just that champion of constant support, keeping your higher focus in mind, is incredibly invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things, is helping people stay locked onto that vision and not get caught up in those kind of small details, which we all do as business women, entrepreneurs, is get caught up sometimes in like, oh, right, I've got to spend that email to that person. And suddenly you're forgetting that really big vision and actually the big impact that you could be having. And I think that's the key thing, is like keeping people on track and going, okay, what about outsourcing all those kind of little painful things, and especially the stuff that you hate, and stay concentrated on the stuff that's really going to move the needle for you, your business, your family, and potentially the people that you impact.
I'm really, I don't know, stuck on this idea of, again, coach. And then immediately I think, oh, like a sports team coach. And you were talking about your son and needing a space to be more authentic and feel safe. And I almost think that coaches of youth league sports programs should go to some class to help
It's a great
develop
idea.
tools.
Yeah.
But I know you're a parent, Matt. So how has being a coach as a profession kind of influenced your parenting style?
Yeah, it's definitely helped, because I think when I train to be a coach, it's trying to understand human psychology. And I find humans fascinating in why they decide to do certain things, why they act in certain ways. And that has given me a really good grounding in being a parent. Yeah, I mess up all the time, but actually, being a coach myself has unlocked my emotional intelligence. As in, if I think back to my 20s, I was not emotionally intelligent at all, in the slightest. I had zero skills on that front because I was too like in my own head and doing my own thing. And I think the more that I became aware of my emotional intelligence and being able to communicate properly and understand why my son reacts in a certain way, or to apologize when I kind of get angry at him and I just reacted rather than responding, and actually pointing out some of my bad decisions to him. Say I reacted rather than responding, or responded just because I was angry or impatient in that moment, helps him as well, because he's then able to, I guess, become more emotionally intelligent. He's like 10, and I'd say he's pretty emotionally intelligent for his age, because my wife's a coach as well. So, he's in a pretty good family in terms of people being able to talk about their emotions and think about, actions or inactions and decisions and things like that. So, hopefully, we're being good parents. And it's definitely helped, yeah, being a coach and understanding that human psychology.
I know you work with a lot of Europeans and a lot of Americans. So, do you want to talk about like the global reach of coaching and business in general, and even video and podcasting globally, as well as what the differences between sort of the field in UK as well as in America or the rest of Europe?
I mean, I definitely, what you're doing with Centered is ahead of the game. I think the UK is still catching up. And that's why I think both of your podcasts, you're both doing great things. And I think anything to do with health and wellness, because as you know, that's like a massive and ever growing industry, and it's only going to become more and more important, because you only have to look at alcohol consumption, especially in the UK, amongst like, so I lecture as well, and the amount of students drinking is like dropped, as in they're thinking more about their health, more about wellness. So I think there's a big culture shift, and I think having this online space where you can have podcasts, you can have video, you can coach people on the other side of the world. You can give, information and value from your therapy rooms, or health information to someone who are thousands of miles away. I think that's incredible, and that's one of the big positives of the internet and the way videos evolve, the quality of cameras. And I think combined with our human knowledge, that's where we can have a massive global impact. And you think, my dad's age, there, that impact was very localized, as in, if you're a coach, if you're a health professional, a wellness professional, your impact probably could only be very localized, as in the city or town that you're in. And now, we can treat people all around the world and make an impact that way. And I think that's a massive plus.
It's actually really exciting. And there's a statistic that the highest rate of success is if a child is exposed to international or a different culture. And so I think that that is also another point, like being exposed to different viewpoints and different cultures or different mindsets from all around the world is so expansive for our thought, right? For our thought process, and like takes us out of our little worlds that we can become so consumed with.
And that global reach is just so much easier these days. Why wouldn't you take advantage of it?
Yeah, it's all about global reach. And you're doing amazing things with the podcast, which is brilliant.
Oh yeah, we've been having a great time with it. Thanks to you. You helped us out. You helped us set up the whole structure. But we are just connecting with people from all over the world. And we're in a small mountain town in Idaho, a very sophisticated town. It's a very small town. And through the podcast, we're reaching out to people from all over the world and exchanging ideas and learning about new technology and good work and different methodologies from everywhere.
Being in the audio field since the kind of your whole career, did you expect podcasting to have the growth that it did? I feel like podcasting is the number one way to reach people or connect or communicate. Like, it's been crazy to see.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the stats because it keeps on kind of growing, and there's over 500 million listeners to podcasts right now, and there's 4.52 million podcasts worldwide, which is incredible. I mean, that's a lot of people listening and watching.
Exchanging information.
Yeah, I mean, there's a load of people listening and watching a lot of quality and podcasts all around the world. And you think audio was never that big, as in there was radio, obviously. But yeah, now video podcasts are, that's the number one way to discover podcasts now, is on YouTube, which is incredible.
People want social connection. They want to improve upon themselves. They want to exchange creative ideas and creativity. And it's sort of unlimited how we can approach that.
Yeah, and there was this thing that YouTube put out called Why We Watch 2.0, just looking at the stats here. And they were basically saying that 97% of viewers prioritize emotional connection over technical quality. Brain scans show 73% higher engagement during personal storytelling. Viewer memory increases 70% when creators show authentic excitement.
That's amazing.
And also things like, 90% of viewers value specific solutions over general topics. So I think there's a lot of emotional connection that's happening because of podcasts, and big positive impact that's happening. I think, thinking about the future of podcasting as well, I think it's only going to become more interactive, more immersive, being able to do polls, or potentially even talk to people that are listening to, say, the Centered podcast all at the same time. Thinking so say if we were watching or listening or watching to the Centered podcast and hearing you two, Molly and Christina, talk to one of your guests, and on the TV it's showing you some of the treatments that's actually happening, if you're wearing goggles or wearables. I think in the future, it's all going to become interactive, as in, okay, you might be able to book a session on your watch or, in your goggles, be able to see what's this QRNTR method or whatever it is that's
QNRT.
happening. I'm dyslexic, I can't say it. But actually, being able to see in the goggles, okay, here's Molly in the therapy room or in the center. Here's Christina doing, that thing. That's really exciting. I think, and also I think we're in a unique point in time where we still value humans actually presenting podcasts as well, because I think that's something to either be wary of or excited by is, you know, guests being replaced by AI bots. Will people care? I don't know. That's, a good question to ask. If the listener or viewer is being inspired, engaged, educated, will they really care whether the person or the thing delivering the information is real or not? And I think right now it's great. We've got humans still presenting podcasts, but I think maybe 10 years, 5 years, I don't know how quickly it's going to happen. It might be a mix of humans and AI guests or AI presenters doing these podcasts.
That's interesting to think about. I do think there's so much power in the actual story, though. Like we always try and bring in, some of our client success stories from the clinic. And there's so much power because people are struggling, right? They're sick or they're struggling or there's something that they can't overcome. And when you hear something that is relevant to your life and you feel that hope, those have been really powerful podcasts for us, like the human story and the human success stories.
That's what I was going to say. I hope people don't lose that personal storytelling because it is what makes us connect as humans. And even
Yes.
though there's so much knowledge in AI and ChatGPT, and yes, it can push us along, like we need that connection, we need the authenticity. We are the humans who have these chronic conditions who are suffering. So we need to hear people who are getting through these situations, like actual people who have success stories.
That's true. The chat is not suffering.
The chat is not suffering. They're doing pretty darn well.
That's what's really good about your podcast is hearing those transformational stories. And I remember listening to one of your podcasts and hearing this kind of transformational story. I actually missed a turning where I was supposed to turn up because I was so gripped by hearing this story. It's like, what's going to happen? How did they kind of make it through? Did they transform? What happened? And I think that's the thing is hearing other people potentially who have gone through, quite hard times health wise and wellness wise that have come to you and transformed and are now living, great lives. I think that's really powerful to hear.
That's one of the things it's been a thread through our podcast is humans helping humans, right? So the stories of transformation are what I'm all about. I love the transformation, whether it's you helping me take a small bit or the seed of a business idea and manifesting it and that transformation, or in my clinic, the personal transformation of someone who's suffering and debilitated in their life to the point where they're thriving. Like that's what I get most excited about in life is transformation. And so, yeah, I think those human stories and humans helping humans and the social connection is why we tune into the podcast and why we have the clinics and why we connect across the world with different people, right?
And that's where I think the mental health space is really moving forward and being accepted, is because people want to know that they're not alone. People want to know that people have been through similar things. People want ideas and resources. And that was something that was lacking for a long time because people hid a lot of problems, whether it's going on in family homes or individually. People didn't want to share their stories because they thought they would be judged. And I think now people are finding a community by sharing their stories.
Even Matt, your example of being dyslexic, like I feel like some of the most brilliant people, right? There's all sorts of research out now that being dyslexic or ADD is like the highest chance of success in the world because you're a creative thinker, right? So that creativity and the problem solving with that setback, where maybe when you were a young child, the systems weren't supporting you, but that's where your strength and brilliance is. And that's how we want to like reframe everything. That's where my work in my clinic or Christina's work with therapy or your work with coaching can reframe a setback for people and use it as an opportunity. And that's why we listen. That's why we do podcasts, I think. For one person to tell you that, and your whole life changes.
Yeah, I think that's the brilliant thing, isn't it? That your podcast and lots of other people's podcasts give people hope and creates that sense of community and just makes things relatable, as in the stuff that we might be going through as humans. You're not alone, because I think sometimes people go through stuff and think, oh, I'm all alone, I'm unique, there's no one that can help me, they're just stuck. And then potentially hearing a story on a podcast of someone who had something very similar, potentially came to you, had their life transformed. They're like, oh, wow. Oh, so there is other people out there going through similar things, and there is solutions to the problem that I'm going through at the moment, and gives you hope that they can go on and live a great life that they deserve.
And even that's a strength, right? Like that's your superpower. That's what can propel you forward by relating with other people in that way and having a success story. Yeah. So there's so much. I love reframing something from a setback to an opportunity.
Yeah. And it's cool, people, with the larger your platform gets, being able to relate to someone who, again, maybe idolizes you, or the person who idolizes you can relate to you is cool for that individual. It's like, wow, I'm not alone. I'm not like, this person too has overcome a lot
Yeah.
of struggles, meaning I can do it as well. If they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with podcasting as well, or any kind of content that you put out, especially if it's of value, is that sometimes you will never ever meet the person or know the impact that you might have had on someone. And yeah, I was just thinking that I did this talk about because I used to run a kindness project, and this woman came up to me.
Wait, tell us about your kindness project. What was it?
Well, I started this thing called We Make Good Happen. It was basically to positively influence my son when he was growing up. And I started one of these things, ideas went viral in the UK, where I started hiding envelopes with money in it and encouraging the finder. It's basically turned into a treasure hunt. So I put all these clues up on social media where I've hidden these envelopes, and I did it around various kind of cities all around the UK and Ireland, and encouraged the finder of those envelopes not to spend the money on themselves, but to go out and do something good with it. And that started this amazing ripple effect of people going, I went and did this for this person, or I turned this money into even more money, like hundreds of pounds or hundreds of dollars or thousands of pounds, sometimes even. And I went and did this with the money that I'd raised. And yeah, what started off as a father-son project quickly grew into, someone said, oh, this is Matt, he started a movement. And I was like, what? Well, it was only like a father-son project, and that's what I only meant to be. But I think because I was putting out stuff on the social and saying, look, I did this for this person today, people were like, can I get involved? And before long, it kind of grew into something much bigger, and it almost got too big, essentially, because it it was only a side project, and it was taking over my
Taking all
life. And
your
also,
time.
people expected me to just like give out money wherever I could, and I was like just doing kind things 100% of the time. And I was like, actually, I'm running a business here, and I'm supposed to be a dad, and I'm supposed to be a husband, and all and a friend, and all that. But yeah, so that was a really kind of pivotal time of my life running this kindness project. But yeah, I loved running that project. And yeah, I think it was a really good pivotal moment for me as a dad and a person, because I developed. and became even more emotionally intelligent, and saw the power of kindness and the fact that when you're kind to one person, that one person, it ripples out to 5 people, and when those 5 people, it ripples out to another 5 people. So actually, when you're kind, and this was like from some Harvard scientists, like when you're kind to one person, it actually ripples out to 125 people, which is pretty incredible. So yeah, and that's like 3 social steps. So always try and be kind to other people, because you will never like realize that kind of kind impact. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So when I was on stage talking about my kindness project, this woman traveled hundreds of miles, came up to me at the end, and she said she was recovering from cancer and had seen a previous talk that had gone up online, me talking about kindness and, the ripple effect. And she said that had really given her hope, talking about hope here, and that had really given her hope. And she ended up doing kind things for other people. And she said that that massively helped her recovery, because she was feeling good by doing good things for other people. And just that ripple effect, as in, you do something kind for other people, you naturally feel good. You have these kind of feel good chemicals released yourself. And I was amazed. And I was like, and that was like she'd watched a video from something like 3 years previously. And she said she still did it. And I think there's loads of examples like that where you have an impact, but that person will never come up to you or never tell you. And I think that's hope as creators that we have to hold on to, or podcasters, that actually the value that we put out or the content that we put out will have an impact that we may never see, but we still need to put it out.
Well, yeah, no, it's a really good point. Like, it's just, I believe that if you do your best work and you do your best for yourself and other people and your family every day, that's all you need to do in the world, right? So with that focus, whether it's a project-based focus or you're working one-on-one with people, just doing your very best, if we focus on that, that's a huge shift, because post-pandemic, it's a stressed out world. It's a stressed out, sick world, right? So in that process of you doing that kindness project, what it is that she started doing kindness, which was empowering her own self. And if we can reframe, like, so if you think you're going through cancer and you feel like a victim, right? Like, why am I going through cancer? But if you can reframe that, well, no, I'm actually empowered. I can do this for other people. That, I think that can be the pivotal change in even an illness or chronic illness or disease.
Yeah, you can't, I mean, very few people can change the entire world, but it's so easy to change one person in your life or affect like just the people around you.
Yeah. It's a huge, it is a huge movement of a positive focus, kindness, supporting and helping other people, collaboration, right? I think we're all, I don't know one person that's not maxed out in what they can well, I might know a few people in what they can personally do, but most people are at their limit. And the only way we can move forward is by working together. And that, I feel like that's a shift that happens. You get to the point where you've done as much as you can do, and you have to work with other people if you want to do more stuff, right? And that social collaboration and network is, I think, where it's really the future of life, and it's global.
It's going to allow everyone to reach their full potential and go far beyond what they can do alone.
Change the consciousness of the world, really. I do. I think
change the whole world. One step at a time.
Just your project, Matt. Your project will change the world. Your kindness project.
I always say to people that if you can positively impact just one person, that's enough. And actually anyone else after that is a bonus, especially when I talk to people about, doing talks or podcasts. It's not just thinking, right, I need thousands of people to impact. It's like just concentrating on that one listener or that one person in the room. And if you can impact that one listener or that one person in the room that you're speaking to, that's enough. If it's in a positive way, and anyone else above that is a bonus.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And you even had told me a story. I remember that you did some small thing and someone had called you in like Dubai, and right. And that connection. And then all of a sudden there's more connections from there. And think it's really interesting to keep that level of connection in mind.
Yeah, there was I'd done a podcast with this other guy who I had done some filming for free out in Africa, where we knew the power of storytelling, and there was these charities out in Africa that couldn't afford, and India that couldn't afford, professional video guys, professional photographers. We would go out and help train out locals, and the other guy was trying to sort of raise funds to give cameras to locals, because no one really wants like white guys trying to like save the world. Really, it's much better to have local people, you know, train them up, give them the skills, because one, they speak the language, they know the culture, give them the skills, empower them, because I think it's all about empowering people, and give them the skills. And I had this guy on interviewing him, talking about this kind of impact and his mission. And there was a pilot out in Dubai. I didn't know at all. Someone else had shared the podcast, and he was on a kind of stopover, and he got in touch with the charity of the guy that I interviewed and said, "I want to really help. How can I help?" And he basically funded these cameras to go out, to buy brand new, cameras, give them to these people out in Africa, so they can then go on, tell stories, and do great stuff for the charity. And there's one guy that got gifted one of these cameras, and he used it to do freelance work, and he ended up raising enough money from his freelance work to go out and buy his own house, buy his own land for his family. And you think that's amazing impact, from me interviewing someone on a podcast to a listener out in Dubai to going back to the original person who was guesting there, to impacting someone out in Africa to buy their own land, to buy a house for their family. That's incredible impact from, and I never knew the listener.
And just that's just an example of you going out and doing like your best work, right? And just showing up authentically. And I think that's the power of it. It's amazing.
That's why AI will never take over.
That's why AI will never,
connections.
AI will never take over. Yeah.
Well, Matt, it's been so lovely to have you and to get to have this opportunity. And I know you're making moves and online. Where can our audience find you, and how can they get in touch?
Yeah, so Matt.Callanan for most of the socials, or just go to my website, which is 1to1matt.com.
I highly recommend Matt. He just has a creative intuition that really can bring out your best.
Well, we would not be here without him.
Yeah, no, you were behind our early ideas of the podcast.
So thank you so much, and we will see you soon.
Yeah, keep up the great work with your podcast, because you are doing amazing things, and your video podcasts are up the top 1%. So keep up that kind of quality.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Centered Presents The Future of Health. If you're interested in learning more, please visit us at drmollybrown.com or email us at media@drmollybrown.com.